Hey loves, it's time for another Terabithia. Sorry, I'm doing this sort of late on Friday, so the lighting is really bad, but here we go. Okay, so I left off with Janice Avery had totally told a lie on the bus. Jess had to have walk by himself, and that had all happened. And then Maybelle, oh yeah, remember Janice stole Maybelle's Twinkies, and so now Jess has to deal with that because he also said some pretty mean things about her on the bus. So here we go. Okay. That afternoon, crouched in the stronghold of Terabithia, they held a council of war. How to get Janice Avery without ending up squashed or suspended. That was their problem. Maybe we could get her caught doing something. Leslie was trying out another idea after they both rejected putting honey on her bus seat and glue in her hand lotion. You know, she smokes in the girls' room. If we could just get Mr. Turner to walk past while the smoke is pouring out, Jess shook his head hopelessly. It wouldn't take her 5 minutes to find out who squawked. There was a moment of silence while they both considered what Janice Avery might do to anyone who reported her to the principal. We gotta get her without her knowing who done it. Yeah, Leslie chewed away at a dry apricot. You know what girls like Janice hate most? What? Being made a fool of. Jess remembered how Janice had looked that day he'd made everyone laugh at her on the bus. Leslie was right. There was a crack in the old hippo hide. Yeah, he nodded, beginning to smile. Yeah. Do we get her about being fat? How about, Leslie began slowly, how about boys? Who's she stuck on? Willard Hughes, I reckon. Every girl in the 7th grade slides to the ground when he walks by. Yeah, Leslie's eyes were shining. The plan came all in a rush. We write her a note, you see, and we pretend it's from Willard. Jess was already getting a pencil from the can and yanking a piece of notebook paper out from under a rock. He handed them to Leslie. No, you write. My handwriting is too good for Willard Hughes. He got set and waited. Okay, she said. Dear Janice. No. Dearest Janice. Jess hesitated, doubtful. Believe me, Jess, she's gonna eat it up. Okay, dearest Janice. Oh, and don't worry about punctuation or anything. We have to make it look as if Willard Hughes really wrote it. Okay, dearest Janice, maybe you won't believe me, but I love you. You think she'll? He asked as he wrote it down. I told you she's gonna eat it up. Girls like Janice Avery believe just what they want in this kind of situation. Okay, now. If you just say you do not love me, it will break my heart. So please don't. If you love me as much as I love you, my darling. Hold it, I can't write that fast. Leslie waited, and when he looked up, she continued in a moony voice. Meet me behind the school this afternoon. Meet me behind the school this afternoon after school. Do not worry about missing your bus. I want to walk home with you and talk about us. And put us in capitals, my darling. Love and kisses, Willard Hughes. Kisses? Yeah, kisses. Put a little row of X's in there too. She paused, looking over his shoulder while he finished. Oh yeah, put P.S. He did. Don't tell nobody. Let our love be a secret for only us two right now. Well, what you gonna put that in? So she'll be sure to tell somebody, stupid. Leslie read the note, nodding approval. Oh, good. You misspelled believe and to. She studied it a minute longer. Jeez, I'm pretty good at this. Sure, you probably had some big secret love down in Arlington. Jess Aarons, I am going to kill you. Hey, girl, you kill the king of Terabithia and you're in trouble. Regicide, she said proudly. What? Did I never tell you the story of Hamlet? He rolled over on his back. Not yet, he said happily. Lord, he loved Leslie's stories. Someday when he was good enough, he would ask her to write them in a book and let him do all the pictures. Well, she began, there was a prince of Denmark named Hamlet. In his head, he drew the shadowy castle with the tortured prince pacing the parapets. How could you make a ghost come out of the fog? Crayons wouldn't do, of course, but with paints, you could put one thin color on top of another so that you would begin to see a pale figure moving from deep inside the paper. He began to shiver. He knew he could do it if Leslie would let him use her paints. The hardest part of the plan to get Janice Avery was to plant the note. They sneaked into the building the next morning before the first bell. Leslie went several yards ahead so that if they were caught, no one would think they were together. Mr. Turner was death on boys and girls he caught sneaking around in the halls together. She got to the door of the 7th grade classroom and peeked inside. Then she signaled Jess to come ahead. The hairs prickled up his neck. Oh, Lord. How am I going to find her desk? I thought you knew where she sat. He shook his head. I guess you'll have to look at everyone until you find it. Hurry, I'll be lookout for you. She closed the door quietly and left him shuffling through each desk, trying to be careful and not to make a mess. But his stupid hands were shaking so much he could hardly pull anything out to look for names. Suddenly he heard Leslie's voice. Oh, Mrs. Pierce, I've just been standing here waiting for you. Lord, the 7th grade teacher was right out there in the hall, heading for this room. He stood, frozen. He couldn't hear what Mrs. Pierce was saying back to Leslie through the closed door. Yes, ma'am, there is a very interesting nest on the south end of the building, and since... Leslie raised her voice even louder. You know so much about science, I was hoping you could take a minute to look at it with me and tell me what built it. There was the mumble of a reply. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Pierce. Leslie was practically screaming. It won't take but a minute, and it would mean so much to me. As soon as he heard their retreating footsteps, he flew around the remaining desks until, oh joy, he found one with a composition book that had Janice Avery's name on it. He stuffed the note on top of everything else inside the desk and raced out of the room to the boys' room, where he hid in one of the stalls until the bell rang to go to homeroom. At recess time, Janice Avery was in a tight huddle with Wilma and Bobby Sue. Then instead of teasing the little girls, the three of them wandered off arm in arm to watch the big boys play football. As the trio passed them, Jess could see Janice's face all pink and prideful. He rolled his eyes at Leslie and she rolled her eyes back at him. As the bus was about to pull out that afternoon, one of the 7th grade boys, Billy Morris, yelled up to Mrs. Prentice that Janice Avery wasn't on the bus yet. Oh, it's okay, Miss Prentice, Wilma Dean called up. She ain't riding this evening. Then in a loud whisper, I reckon you all know that Janice has a heavy date with you-know-who. Who? Asked Billy. Willard Hughes. He is so crazy about her, he can't hardly stand it. He's even walking her all the way home. Yeah? Well, the 304 just pulled out with Willard Hughes in the back seat. If he's got a big date, he don't seem to know much about it. You lie, Billy Morris. Billy yelled a cuss word, and the entire back seat plunged into a heated discussion as to whether Janice Avery and Willard Hughes were or were not in love and were or were not seeing each other secretly. As Billy got off the bus, he hollered to Wilma, Ooh, you just better tell Janice that Willard is going to be mad when he hears what she's spreading all over this school. Wilma's face was crimson as she screamed out the window. Okay, you dummy. You talk to Willard. You'll see. Just ask him about the letter. You'll see. Poor old Janice Avery, Jess said as he sat in the castle later. Poor old Janice. She deserves everything she gets and then some. I reckon, he sighed, but still. Leslie looked stricken. You're not sorry we did it, are you? No, I reckon we had to do it, but still. Still what? He grinned. Maybe I got this thing for Janice, like you got this thing for killer whales. She punched him in the shoulder. Let's go out and find some giants or walking dead to fight. I'm sick of Janice Avery. The next day, Janice Avery stomped onto the bus, her eyes daring everyone in sight to say one word. Leslie nudged Maybelle. Maybelle's eyes went wide. Did you... Shh. Yes. Maybelle turned completely around and stared at the back seat. Then she turned back and poked Jess. You made her that mad? Jess nodded, trying to move his head as little as possible as he did so. We wrote the letter, Leslie whispered. But you mustn't tell anyone or she'll kill us. Oh, I know, said Maybelle, her eyes shining. I know. And that's the end of that chapter. That's my favorite one. Hope you guys like this one. Bye.